Andy Johnson, a schema building lesson plan, a very basic form that you will use 99.78% of the time, whether you're teaching kindergarten students or graduate students, and I've taught all of them. Schema-based. A schema is a file folder in your head. So a schema building lesson plan, the purpose is to add knowledge to the file folders in your student's head, to present an organized body of knowledge, to teach them something about the world. Now, there's a lot of lesson plan forms out there, but most of them are simply too gosh darn complicated and cumbersome to be of any practical use. You get more concerned with the form than actual teaching and the function of the lesson. Remember, our goal is to actually teach students. We sometimes forget that. Simple it up. Rigor is different from complexity. Remember, we are teachers. Our goal is to teach students something. Basic essence of teaching is this: say a little bit, do a little bit. With older students, you say a little bit more and do a little bit more, but that is the essence of teaching. So here is a very basic form: the purpose statement, the opening, the input, and the activity. Let us unpack that. The purpose statement is what you want students to learn or learn about. Students will learn about frogs. The opening is a simple overview, preview, advanced organizer question. Something simple to give students a sense of what is to come, or a structure or preview. Short, short, short. Some people include this with the input. Some people like to have a separate section. You decide. The input is the most important part. This is the information you will be giving unto your students, what they need to know. Use list or outline form here so you can see the sequence and structure. I do not recommend paragraph form. You're not going to be reading from a script. You want a sense of the outline so you can quickly look at it and see where you're at. And during the lesson, you can have it down on your desk and see exactly where you're at. Input, the most important part. And then the activity, where you manipulate, extend, or apply something from the input. You practice learning. Do something with the information used to reinforce. Now, let me give you an example. A lesson on the Three Stooges. Students will learn about the Three Stooges. An opening. Today, we're going to learn about the Three Stooges. They were a comedy movie team in the 30s, 40s, and 50s. We'll be looking at their movie career, personal lives, and post-movie careers. Bingo! That is my opening. The input would then be some specific Stooge information, organized and sequential, using abbreviated sentences. And then the activity would involve some type of inquiry activity. And the question would be, what type of humor is used? All right, so some type of activity. Here are some other possible elements that you could include. Some people want to use behavioral objectives. This would be to describe a behavior you'd like to see as a result of learning. You should be able to say yes or no as to whether that objective is met. An assessment. How will you assess learning? How do you know learning has taken place? If I were to use that, here are two examples. Students will demonstrate their knowledge of the Three Stooges by scoring 85% on the Three Stooges quiz. Assessment. At the end of the lesson, students will be given a Three Stooges quiz. This quiz contains 15 questions. Students will score at least 12 out of 15 correct. All right? That is a behavioral objective. All right? Learning is not behaviors. Learning occurs up here. This is why I do not really agree with behavioral objectives. Or students will be able to describe 3 interesting or important ideas related to the Stooges. To assess, at the end of the lesson, students will be asked to record 3 interesting or important ideas from the lesson in their learning log. Teacher will review their learning log. So I can say yes or no as to whether that behavioral objective was met. All right? Now here's the thing that represents a behavioral view of learning. That's good if you're training rats or pigeons. Not so good if you're teaching actual human beings. And does everything need to be assessed? I, as an instructor, most teachers do not assess everything because learning occurs over time. We need to be exposed to concepts and skills over time. There are places to assess and evaluate. When you take a soil sample, you don't scoop up the whole lawn, you take little bits here and there. That is assessment, assessing bits here and there along the way. Often the most learning occurs beyond the behavioral objective. When you define what must be, you limit what might be. And this is why I do not agree with behavioral objectives. Besides, the predominant paradigm today in education is either cognitive learning, constructivism, or the neurocognitive paradigm, which is coming into view more and more often. Simple view, purpose statement. The purpose is opening, short, input, and then an activity. Keep it simple, a very basic and effective form of lesson planning.